Good day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our Accounting and B School Hangout. I'm your host, I'm Fanae Croft. I'm the Field Marketing Manager for the Americas region. And today we'll be talking to current accounting students and professionals about some of the many options available to you as it relates to your higher education beyond undergrad and ultimately your career. So before we get to our guest today, I want to just set expectations on how this event is going to go. So basically, we're going to chat. We have our guests on, and they're going to answer your questions as best as they can. But we'll chat for about 20 to 30 minutes first, just talking about what you can expect in the graduate accounting coursework. What's the difference between an accounting, a master's in accounting and an MBA? What are some of the in-demand skills? What are companies looking for when they are hiring talent? So like I said, we'll chat, but we want to make sure that we answer your questions. So you might have a question right now, or some may come up as we're talking. So what I would love for you to do is to type your question, post it into the comment section. Those questions will make it our way. And after we do our chat, we will get to as many questions as we can within the hour. So with that being said, I'd love to welcome our guest today. Joining us, we have Lindsay Arnold. She's the Associate Director of Student Recruitment for Graduate Accounting Programs at Indiana's Kelley School of Business. We have Amanda Barth. She's the Director of MBA Admissions at William Mary's Mason School of Business. And then we also have Amy Stoughton and Janelle Meck, who both work in campus recruiting for KPMG. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as not to take up too much time with my talking, Lindsay, I would love to start with you. What can, let's say, current accounting undergraduate students right now, what can they expect of a master's in accounting program as it relates to like coursework and things like that? And you can also share how it's different from what they might be doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and obviously I can really only speak specifically to Kelley and what we're doing here at Indiana University, but what they can really expect is that we are keeping up with the demand from companies and what they're seeking. And so, and I'm sure, Janelle or Amy can maybe confirm this or not. A lot of companies were telling us that they were wanting their students to have a lot more data analytics skills. And so we actually added that into our curriculum. I want to say we added either 4.5 or 5.5 credits into our curriculum with that. So that has been incorporated into our curriculum. And then students have elective options that they can go into, such as a lot more classes in tax, and audit. Forensic accounting is a really popular one, and ethics and things like that. And so our classes really just focus on not only kind of broadening their knowledge of just accounting in general, but really making sure that we're providing our students what companies such as KPMG are looking for. You know, we all work in the business world. I always tell my students that students, you're our product. And then, we're issuing out our products to these different companies, as a buy-in. So I kind of hope that kind of answers your question of what they can expect as far as on the academic side. And then we're just obviously just a year program. Being a master's in accounting, students can also expect a lot of experiential learning opportunities as well, because a lot of our students are coming right out of undergrad. So they don't really have a lot of professional experience that they can feel confident in and taking to the workspace. And so we have field consulting projects incorporated into our curriculum where students are in teams and they're provided a client that's typically based in the Bloomington area, and that client has an actual business problem. And as we all know, businesses don't just have an accounting problem. They might have a marketing problem or a customer relations problem or a technical problem. And so that allows our students to have to think outside the box and say, okay, this is my actual client, how can I serve their needs, as well as expanding my knowledge of what I've been learning in my class concurrently with that.
Awesome. Okay. So we know that many students who major in accounting, they are thinking about a CPA later. Mm-hmm. And because of that, one of their stops ends up being a graduate program. Can you talk a bit more about what that application process is like?
As far as applying to our program?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so our application, it is online, and what we require is a personal statement from students. The personal statement basically being personal, to yourself. How can you add to the MSA program? What do you hope to gain from the MSA program? Why are you choosing to go in the MSA program? And so just a number of different things that we're looking for, along with the student's resume. I get a lot of students that may say, oh, I don't have any internship experience. That's fine. We review our applications completely holistically. If I have a 4.0 student and they don't have any internships, that's fine. That just tells me they're obviously really strong academically. And then I might have something on the flip side where they've been involved in everything on campus. They've had a job every single summer. And so, maybe their GPA is slightly lower than something perfect, which is fine too. And so I think we really pride ourselves on looking at applicants that don't all look the same. And that could not just even be based on, gender or race or nationality. That's going to be based on academic background as well. So we require a resume, your personal statement, of course, your official transcript, and the GMAT. We do require a GMAT of a total composite score of minimum 620 is what we're looking for, or the GRE. The GRE is acceptable too. And then competitive applicants are invited for an interview for the program.
Okay. Amanda, I know that you handle MBA admissions, but we might have some either current accounting professionals or some students even decide to take that path. Can you talk to us a bit about the MBA program, the specialization in accounting and what makes that a different path? And then also, I know you have some familiarity with the graduate accounting programs at William & Mary. So just giving us some context there, just from another school's perspective, would be great.
Absolutely. I'm happy to jump in and talk a little bit about the Master of Accounting program here at William & Mary, and also the full-time MBA, which does offer a dual degree with our Master of Accountancy program. Like Indiana, ours is also a specialized program in the MAC coursework. Primarily designed to develop and to produce practicing accountants. So our courses are designed to help the candidates meet those general requirements needed to sit for a CPA licensure. The MBA with the dual degree in accounting provides more of an accounting overview, but with the possibility on focusing in a particular service line. The MBA, of course, is a much more comprehensive degree that really emphasizes that leadership development and strives to educate future business managers and future business leaders. In our program, in terms of the admissions process, if you're applying for the Master of Accountancy program, which is a one-year program, we actually offer some unique opportunities based on undergrad history, so academic performance, for a GMAT or GRE waiver. And we formally will waive off the GMAT or GRE for any accountancy student with a 3.25 GPA or above. However, for the MBA program, we're still requiring a GMAT or a GRE. But we work very closely with the accountancy team in making our decisions for dual degree candidates. Candidates also have multiple options as to when they'd like to apply formally for the dual degree. They can do so before attending William & Mary and apply to both programs simultaneously. And that's where our admissions committees would work together through some of the requirements. But then they also have the opportunity, if they're really focused on the MBA path, to start the first year of our core MBA program and to apply for the Master's in Accounting within the first year. In that degree path, the second year would be focused on accounting, and then our students would have a final semester with us. So it would be 2.5 years towards earning the dual degree. And similar to many programs, we try to keep our MBA extremely experiential based, but also the Master of Accountancy to keep it experience based. With our close proximity to Washington, D.C. and to New York and many of the big four firms, we're able to send our students to those locations for company visits, site visits, and of course, interviewing opportunities with alumni of William and Mary who work in those firms for great opportunities. But our admissions offices, we really look closely at a candidate when they express interest in either a pretty firm area in accountancy, or if they're thinking about the potential for a dual degree at William and Mary.
Okay, thanks. So let me ask you ladies at KPMG. So we're talking about going into these programs. There seems to be quite a few different paths and routes to take. We have a general idea of what it takes to apply. And I don't know if you all mentioned this. I just want to say it again in terms of the time it takes to complete the programs. Like, what can these students expect, just in general and specifically with your programs?
Sorry, so you're asking what it takes to complete the MSA MBA programs? Are you asking the schools that?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I shifted back. I was about to shift over into skills, and then I just thought about the fact that I'm not sure that we talked about how long it takes.
Well,
that's great.
We can really quickly jump in on that. At William and Mary, if you're doing the master's in accounting, it is going to be 1 year or 2 semesters. If you're pursuing the dual MBA MAC, then that is going to be 2.5 years. So a little bit different in terms of the timeline between the specialty in accounting and then also the dual degree.
Great.
So here at the Kelly School, same, the master's in accounting, just 1 year, two semesters. We have fall starts only. And so I know some schools offer spring starts. We only offer fall starts.
Okay. So somewhere between 1 year and 3 years, you'll be making your way out. From that point, can you ladies talk about what type of skills you're looking for when you're hiring graduates in, and what type of opportunities can they expect upon completion of their program?
So I think it's such a wonderful time to go into getting your MSA or getting your MBA, because there are so many options and there are so many choices. So not only do you get to choose what degree to get, what school to go to, once you get to a firm like ours, and we're similar to the other big four, you have choices about what practice you want to go into. So I cover recruiting for audit, and I help out a little bit with recruiting for tax. And Janelle covers recruiting for MBA candidates in advisory. So there's a number of decisions once you even decide to come work for a firm like ours. Across the board, though, we do ask for similar skills. So we ask for you to be a leader. We ask for you to also have good teamwork skills. We need for you to have good communication skills, because we need you to be able to talk to our clients and present solutions to our clients. We'd like to see good academic standing, but we'd like to see well-rounded people as well. So similar to what you were talking about, as far as, you'd like to see the good grades, but you'd like to, sometimes if you see lower grades, but you see good leadership skills or good work experience, that can be factored into the decision as well. And do you have anything to add from the advisory side?
Yeah, from the advisory side, especially with MBAs and any sort of master's or advanced degree you might get, we really look for all the things that Amy mentioned, of course, and having an analytical mindset and just being able to look at a problem, break it down into its pieces, attack it and solve it, come up with a solution that you can present to your teams and to the client. Being able to be just a little bit analytical sets you apart from a lot of candidates, and that's a skill that we're looking for in a lot of our advisory practices. And especially once you, for our MBA candidates, whether you're doing a dual degree or an MBA in any sort of specialization, that's something that I think is a key coming out of that and other master's programs as well, is taking the kind of baseline schoolwork you've acquired through your classes and actually applying it in an analytical fashion.
How does this CPA factor in? Is that something that needs to be a goal of people who are interested in KPMG, or are there various paths depending on where they're looking to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it varies. Janelle and I are going to have a different answer. From audit, yes, we need you to be on the CPA track. We need you to have your CPA by the time you get promoted to manager. So that's about 5 years after you've been with the firm. So we offer a number of incentives to make sure you are able to take the exam and pass it well before it's time that it has to be done. But yes, we do require that you are on the CPA track in our audit practice and in many of our tax practices. Some of our specialty tax practices will take attorneys or other degrees as well that do not have to be CPA eligible, but our audit and our federal tax, you need to be CPA eligible. But again, Janelle has a different answer, so I'll let you weigh in on that for advisory.
Sure. Yeah. So for advisory, we do have some positions or some practices that do require CPA. For example, we have our deal advisory practice, and that group specifically does require students or candidates to have their CPA or be on their CPA track. But many of our advisory practices do not require a CPA, whether they're looking for accountants in the back as their background and as their major, they won't need a CPA, or they look to hire people from all sorts of backgrounds and majors as well. So there's a little bit more flexibility, as Amy mentioned, on the advisory side if for those students that aren't pursuing their CPA.
Okay. And so KPMG also has a program or a Master's of Accounting program as well, correct?
We do. Yes, we are. We're just finalizing our selections for our third year of the program. It's very exciting. It's for audit hires and tax hires, and you take you apply to the program, and then as part of the program, we send you to school for about 6 months. And you intern with us for a winter internship when you work on our busy season clients, and then go back to school to finish up that MSA degree. We started working with Villanova and Ohio State and have since expanded to 6 additional schools. And our first year class just started with the firm full time, so they're done with their degree, they're done with their internship, they're done with all their classes. They have their Masters of Accounting, Data and Analytics, and they just started full-time last week. So these are skills that we anticipate all of our new hires will eventually need. I think it was Lindsay that mentioned that the firms have said they wanted data and analytics skills, and we do. And so we have decided to get some of our workforce educated with those skills prior to even starting full-time with the firm. So those are skills that are very important to us, and we've decided to kind of get some of our hires a jump start with those skills. There are skills we anticipate all of our employees will eventually need, and we will train them while they're with the firm, but some people will come in with those skills ready to go.
Okay. Thank you. Lindsay.
Did we all get our alert? We all just got our alert on our phone.
What's happening?
What's that thundering?
Lindsay, can you, Amy and Janelle they both work for a public accounting firm. Do you have any insight on, say, candidates who are thinking about like going in a direction of private? Is there something different that they should be thinking about? Can you talk about the types of opportunities that might be available should you go in that direction?
Oh, I'm not the best person for this question. I almost think that Amy and Janelle would probably know a little bit more about that, only because I'll just promote this a little bit, that here at Kelly at Indiana University, we do have graduate career services, which is a huge part of our entire program and assisting the students in making that very decision. Should I go public? Should I go private? Should I go into healthcare? Wherever, their talents may lead them. And so I'll be honest, I cannot really speak to specifically the significant differences between public versus private and which ones maybe suit more students than others. From what my students have just shared with me, that they really feel like with private firms, they don't really feel like a small fish in a big pond. Really, just to kind of put it bluntly, with public firms, yes, opportunities are there, but the competition's also there as well because they're big. And so from what I have gathered, just based on observation and conversations with my students, that's kind of the sense that I get. And so it really just kind of depends on what environment you feel like you thrive best in. As far as preparation, there's really no difference in preparation as far as on the curriculum side, what we do to prepare our students. At the end of the day, they're going to be just as prepared for a public firm as they would for a private firm. And so no, there isn't any type of different way that we approach it, based on their professional goals when it comes to the careers. But that will just really kind of come down to how are you preparing with your career coach, maybe in, coming to a private firm versus a public firm. Does your language need to be different? Do your skill sets need to be different, and things like that? So I always encourage our students to speak with their career coaches who are nationally certified coaches in that area. They're going to have a little bit more insight to what companies are looking for.
Okay. Amy, Janelle, and Amanda. Mm-hmm. So let's talk MAC or Masters versus MBA. Are the career options different? Do they meet up somewhere? Like, how can, a lot of times people are looking to think long term and then track back to which route they should take. Any insight would help.
I can talk a little bit about the career path here at William and Mary. Our students certainly focus on a lot of the opportunities in the public accounting sector. So they are looking at the auditing, the taxations, all the opportunities within the Big Four. And then on the private side, a lot of the government and nonprofit. A limited number of our students, and I would say this is where the MBA dual degree comes into play, will choose to pursue careers in other areas of consulting or in finance. And that's where they find that the dual degree opportunity with accounting is really helpful. Specifically, we have many sponsorships with the United States government and the U.S. military that will actually send military officers, for example, from the U.S. Coast Guard here for the dual degree in accounting that they'll take back to conduct large military audits and work within the financial sector of the United States military. So I think we do see the career pathway is different depending on where candidates are focusing, either public or private or with a dual degree. But I think, in either direction, potentially the starting position, starting title, job responsibilities, and of course, salaries will start to vary between a Master's of Accounting student and an MBA. The MBA commensurate jobs usually compel a bit higher title, higher status right out the gate. But typically those students have come into our program with pre-experience, whereas our Masters of Accounting students are a little bit younger and starting into those first but exciting entry-level roles with some of the big firms. But that's sort of what we're seeing in terms of career pathway and what the two programs can do. But employment rates are very high in both programs. So the student return on investment is really strong for going through the two opportunities and then having those potential job outcomes afterwards.
And one thing that I would like to add to that is that if you intend to be a CPA and you did not have an accounting undergrad, an MBA might be a little tricky to meet the educational requirements that the CPA licensure requires. So if you have an accounting undergrad, then you may be able to consider an MBA. If you do not have an accounting undergrad, the Masters of Accounting might be the path that you'd like to choose if you intend to be a CPA. So to be a CPA, you have to have 150 credit hours, which the MBA could provide, but you also need to have certain prescribed accounting classes. And so if you don't have those as part of undergrad, you need to make sure you get them as part of your master's degree. So if you're on the CPA track, you just might want to pay attention to what the CPA licensure requirements are and make sure you're meeting those through your graduate degree.
And I would just kind of echo and add to some things that were said about the MBA in the area that I focus at KPMG within advisory. We are hiring at a little bit of a higher entry level because usually the MBA candidates that we're looking for do have several years of work experience, 3 to 5 or even more years of work experience. So a lot of times they are hired in more at the senior associate level or higher. And they often have a variety of backgrounds, not necessarily just an accounting background. They may come from different undergrad degrees and have different specializations within their MBA program. And so depending on what your ultimate career path is, might, depend on whether you want an MBA specializing in a certain area, for example, finance or strategy, there's marketing specializations, varies across programs. And that kind of dictates where we as KPMG would hire into our advisory network.
Awesome. Thank you. That was super helpful. So can you talk to us about, let's say audit and tax. You were just hired in. What can you expect to be doing on a typical day?
Oh gosh, that's maybe one of the perks of public accounting is there is no typical day. Some days you might be working on the financial reporting section of your client and getting the financials out the door. Some days you might be doing the cash testing. You might be using some of our advanced DNA strategies. You might be reviewing inventory or accounts receivable, accounts payable. So it really depends on the client and what areas you're working on. Some of our clients, the entire audit will be done in 1 week. Some of our clients, it's months taking, doing all the test procedures required for that audit. So I hate to give a vague answer, but it definitely depends on the client that you're on and how big that client is.
Janelle, would you say the same?
Yeah, especially from the advisory side, it is certainly as it depends answer, which I know isn't always the best answer, but it is true. It really varies on the project, but as an entry level, you are hands in on the client work. You're at the client's site if the team is there. You're participating in team meetings and meeting with the client and having your part in the final deliverable of all the projects. I actually started my career on the advisory side before I was in campus recruiting, and I can truly say that that's what was exciting, is that I felt like I was making my mark and having a part of that final deliverable on every project.
Okay. So, Lindsay and Amanda, you're in a program right now. You're a undergraduate student. What should you be thinking about or focusing on as you get ready to start applying for your graduate program? What's going to be most important?
For me, I always advise our students to what is the ultimate end goal, meaning what profession you want to be in. And so for our students in particular, I always tell them to really focus obviously on their academics, because you got to get in, right? If you're even interested in a master's in accounting, you obviously have to get in. And so our program is definitely considered pretty competitive here at Kelly. So that's one thing to focus on. And then we have a really unique 3-2 MBA specifically for our undergraduate students. And so sometimes I'll get students, they'll say, should I do MBA or MSA? They always kind of teeter between the two. Like I said, at the end of the day, it just really depends on your goal. For our audience overall, when they begin to take the tax and finance courses, and they kind of know, if they want to do MBA, because our MBA program is really financy, if that's a word. Whereas the MSA, like I said, really focuses in tax and data analytics and things like that. So those are definitely some things to consider. I always get the question of, should I do it now or later? And, our students are business students. And so again, I have them focus on, okay, what should you do now that's going to be least expensive, that's going to, invest in your future later. Since I typically deal with younger students, who are just getting out of their undergrad and getting their bachelor's degrees, companies like KPMG are offering them a really nice package, for starting salaries and sign-on bonuses, which is great. I definitely was not offered that when I graduated with my bachelor's 10 years ago. And so I definitely can see the appeal. But I let them know, hey, a lot of these companies are going to want you to probably have a graduate degree if you want that senior level management position, or if you want that partner position, eventually down the road. And since these are business savvy students, I always let them know there's no time than today when that degree is going to be inexpensive. Tuition's bound to go up. It's never going to go down. And so that's why I tell students to kind of really consider where they want to be, not just when they graduate, but where do they want to be 5, 7, 8 years from now. And then also to focusing on their curriculum and making sure that you're staying strong academically.
Got it. Think big picture, where do you want to go, and just hone in on the academics. Mm-hmm. Anything to add, Amanda?
I would just add a little bit in terms of, if you are young enough and still in your undergrad experience where you do have time to take on meaningful summer internships or externships within the program, go for them. That's a great opportunity to really start to figure out the career path that's going to be the right fit for you. It is a big leap into business if you don't have a formal business background. Also connecting with some of the alumni at your university or wherever you're considering that have gone through the program. I know our Master of Accountancy students and our MBA alumni are all very happy to share their experiences with prospective candidates. So those conversations can be very valuable as you think through your potential path and where you're headed for grad school. I would also recommend to university juniors and university seniors to start prepping for that GMAT early. You really are at the point in your academic career when you're fresh and you still have all of those good quantitative skills, at hand. So to really think about sitting for a GMAT early on in maybe your senior year. The exam is valid for 5 years, and it's a great opportunity to get it out of the way. That is something that you will potentially need to apply to schools, and occasionally some of our MBAs who are in the dual degree track are also asked for their test scores by some of the firms that we work with. So depending if you venture off into a more formal consulting role with an accounting background, you might be asked for a GMAT at a later date. So really take your time and have good discussions, but also mark some of those boxes for future application requirements while you're still in university.
Great advice. I'll echo that sentiment on the GMAT. We have data, of course, a lot of data from test takers, and you look group test takers by time out of school, that 0 to 2 year bucket. That's when scoring is at its highest, and that's usually you're in test taking mode. It just really helps to not disconnect from it and then try and come back. So if the opportunity is there for you, you're still currently pursuing your undergraduate degree, knock that GMAT out and it'll count. It'll work later, even if you haven't figured out your next step. It may be a stop along the way. Amy and Janelle, so other perspective, if you are thinking, I want to work for a Big Four firm like KPMG in my future, what should I be doing right now to put myself in position to secure a role at a firm like yours?
So I think I know you had asked us this question, and I had a really good answer at the time. I'm just going to remind myself of it. Yes. So I would encourage anybody to become a student of business and just be aware of headlines and be aware of the financial environment and just be aware of how those changes in what's going on in the world are impacting business. So that when you are a first-year staff and you get put on a client and you have to go talk to the CFO and you have to say, why did your income change period to period? And they start referring to something that happened in the world, you know what they're talking about. So just be aware of what's happening in the world and be aware of what's around you, and how that's impacting your future clients. Also prepare your timeline for the CPA exam if you are on that track. So similar to planning out your plan for the GMAT, right when you're done with that, set out your plan for the CPA exam and just try to get that out of the way. I came from the audit practice. I did not take the CPA exam as seriously as I probably should have. I waited too long. I was out of test taking mode. I had forgotten a lot of the material that I wasn't using daily on my clients, and it was a lot harder than it should have been. So definitely encourage you to be a student of the world and of business, but also plan out your timeline for the CPA.
Love that. Janelle?
I think, obviously echo what Amy said about kind of being a student of the business world and the CPA. I think also any technical skills you could pick up in Microsoft Excel and different things like that. Those are programs that our professionals are using all day, every day. PowerPoint, they're making presentations, those kind of Microsoft Office suite programs. If you have access to any data and analytics tools that are out there, just getting yourself familiar with those programs, learning how to use them a little bit above kind of the basic functionality will really help you set yourself apart from other candidates and will really set you up for success because you'll come in to a career and to your job, being ready to hit the ground running if you kind of know those basic functions within those programs that we use each and every day.
Love it. Thanks, ladies. We got a ton of questions. Let's jump into some of these. Hopefully, as we're chatting, it might get the juices flowing and we'll get a few more questions in even so. So is the leadership that and entrepreneurship you'll get from an MBA program, is that going to be helpful to an accountant?
I would just speak a little bit to the type of leadership development that you would get in a dual degree. So I think if you're looking at an MBA or an MBA with the dual focus in accounting, for most programs out there, it is a very concentrated dose of leadership development. We're working on some of those soft skills that our colleagues from KPMG talked about, the ability to communicate, to articulate, to communicate with impact, negotiation skills, that awareness of the world around you. Those are all competencies that we feel like we take a little bit more time to develop in a 2.5-year dual degree program between the MBA and the MAC. And then, of course, still leaving time to get those hours in to sit for the CPA licensure. So I think what you'll find is that leadership competency later down the line will first help you go for those higher level entry positions, potentially a higher earning potential, and then also the ability down the line to become a partner or a principal within a major accounting firm. So we're really, grooming our students to take on those leadership opportunities at all the big accounting companies down the line with the dual degree. And that's where we feel like the leadership focus through the dual will really be helpful.
I would definitely agree with that when it comes to our specific program, which is the Master's in Accounting. Again, like Amanda said, same thing. A lot of our classes are very team focused, and so you have to know and have the ability to work with the team. Our campus is also very diverse, so how are you able to communicate with people who are not like you, whether it be culturally or gender-wise or whatever the case may be? And so, what you're really developing and gaining in the class, you're going to have to be using at companies such as KPMG. How are you interacting with the client? How are you consulting a client? Again, just kind of honing in on those soft skills such as self-awareness and just a lot of competencies that you can't just get from an accounting book. You have to get you really just have to kind of gain of just working with people. And I think a lot of people, at least my students, sometimes they have this in their mindset that accounting is still that guy with the green visor sitting at a desk punching numbers, right? But we obviously know accounting has significantly evolved, since then, where they're actually having to lead teams and lead projects and things like that, and sometimes they may not even be in front of a computer for the whole day because they are having to conduct meetings and having to consult on projects and just things like that. So
piggybacking or going a step further, and it seems like a few of the practical skill sets needed have surfaced, but there is a question about if you are thinking partner one day or CFO one day, is there anything beyond what's been stated that really stands out for you in terms of practical skills needed if you are really trying to, get into one of those positions?
I feel like we've covered a lot of it. I think my other advice is just to ask questions. And don't assume that you always know the answer. And when you ask questions when you're out at your client, I think that's when you grow and develop the most. So that's the more information you can gain. The more information you gain makes you a better employee, which then will lead you onto the partner track. So ask questions and just never stop learning. I think that's the other piece of advice that we can give is to just continue learning and becoming a better accountant. And that will lead you to partner.
And I think just one quick thing to add to that, and I think it goes hand in hand with what you're saying, Amy, is really we foster environment and culture with mentorship and finding mentors and people in your career that will support you and help you in that continuous learning and desire to, help guide your career. So really finding those mentors and people in your life and in your jobs in different areas that can provide you with that support needed to get to that partner level.
Thank you. Do either of you, Amanda or Lindsay, have any familiarity with forensic accounting? We have a specific question about that. I don't know if either of you have those programs at your school.
Yeah, we don't have those programs. We do have, I believe we have just a 3-credit class built into our curriculum, which is an elective. It's just becoming really, really popular. And then also our students, they also have opportunities to go to Washington, D.C. in the spring semester and visit the Washington campus, which is an educational organization out there. And I remember last year they actually met a forensic accountant. He was like an FBI agent, carried a gun, and did all these really cool things that the students really liked. And so I think that trip along with their class really kind of opened up, their mind a little bit to forensic accounting, what it overall looks like. But I can't really speak to the career itself. Again, I'm just going off of my student experiences. They may get to audit really high up people, such as the political climate right now. Those might be some forensic accountants, or it might be something you even see. I know that movie with Ben Affleck, The Accountant, something like that, where he has to go in and audit some big company and it's all secret and things like that. So that's a fancy way of looking at it, but I can't really speak overall in general. I can't really think of a lot of our alumni who, that's just what they do is forensic accounting. So I can't really speak to it specifically.
So we actually do have some electives in forensic accounting within our Master of Accounting program here at William & Mary. So they're grad level courses. There are 2 forensic accounting options that students can take further on into that first year of accounting study. And then I also noticed when I was doing a little bit of a research and partnering up with our accounting staff that they try to also bring in guest speakers and guest lecturers, like Lindsay said, from Washington, D.C. with the close proximity. So a lot of students that are headed off into private sector accounting, that's exactly what they're going for. We also do have an analytics program here at William & Mary. And so one of the benefits to being in a business school with a larger portfolio is that students are able to take some cross-listed courses. And so there's a lot going on in the analytics space that is also serving some of those private sector interests. So I would say there's certainly some coursework. I wouldn't say that's what William & Mary is focused on, but with our government bend here, certainly those are possible job outcomes for students working with one of the intelligence agencies or for the U.S. government, or even a public company for that matter in that space. So certainly something that we know is trending, and I bet that you'll see many programs start to react to that market interest.
Yeah, and within KPMG, we have forensic accounting practices that sit actually within advisory. And a lot of times, just in terms of the candidates they're looking for, they are accountants and candidates that are CPA eligible, since that's a bulk of what we're looking at. But they also like to see students that have maybe some computer science, information systems management courses or backgrounds or minors, since a lot of that is very data heavy. We may even look for in certain levels people with law degrees or things of that nature, given the forensic aspect of it. And it's really, the type of work I'm not most familiar with it, but I know it's generally a lot of the more investigative, if there was fraud and digging into a company's systems and books and kind of, you can even get down into the level of emails and going through emails and trying to identify fraud. It could be around looking into the controls of a company and where maybe there was some gaps in how, like what happened to cause that fraud. And then there's also a lot of work to prevent fraud. So maybe a client doesn't have a fraud issue now, but they want to make sure that they don't have one and they want to avoid that. And so our teams will go in and help set up their systems and do different things to prevent that. So those are just a couple of different areas that I know you could work in as a forensic accountant.
Okay, thank you. So we have a few people on who seem to be a little further along in their career. So can we speak, and I know you can to this, Amanda, but I'd love to hear from the industry perspective. You're a mid-career accounting professional with the CPA, or you've just been working for quite a few years. What's the benefit of that advanced degree at this point?
I would say, in terms of, from my perspective and working with students that are going to get their MBAs specifically, or other advanced degrees, masters that maybe aren't necessarily masters in accounting, when what we most often see is when people are kind of mid-career and looking to go get that advanced degree, they're often trying to make a career switch and move into a different field and a different profession, or within, kind of the accounting before public firm, move into a different type of service offering. So a lot of times we'll see accountants go get their MBA and then they want to move more into the consulting side, into strategy consulting, or maybe they'll go get their MBA to move into a more finance investment focused area. So from my perspective, the candidates and the professionals that I see that are more mid-career trying to go get those advanced degrees, it's really beneficial when they're looking to make a somewhat drastic or different career move.
Yeah. Any other thoughts there? So is there, do you look at an MBA from an accredited school differently than if someone went to a school with, and I'll just say a business degree? If there's a school with accreditation versus a school that doesn't have, like that AACSB accreditation, or from one of the other major accrediting bodies?
So on the audit and tax perspective, we do need someone to be able to, again, qualify to sit for the CPA exam. And so if the CPA, if they would accept those credits, then we would be okay with it. Most often, the CPA exam boards want to see credits from an accredited university. Janelle, I don't know if you have other thoughts on the advisory side for a non-CPA candidate, but I think for a CPA candidate, we'd want them to come from an accredited university.
Yeah, I think, we have a whole different number of factors that are considered when we think about what schools we're going to go to and specifically recruit at and target those candidates. Accreditation is one of them, but more on the advisory side, it's not an end-all be-all. We would consider candidates from different schools. We may not have a strong recruiting presence there, but I don't know that would be a hard no on considering candidates with an MBA from that. We would kind of look at the candidate holistically, if they are pursuing their MBA from a non-accredited university.
Okay. We have some questions about compensation. I don't know if there's, I can provide just ballpark, lump everyone in numbers. The question is about compensation statistics before or after an advanced degree. And I think if you just lump everyone in, it might be around 52 or something like that. And then masters beyond that was 65. And then MBA was, I think, 105. That's very general. I don't know if anyone has that specific data, accounting undergrad versus master's in accounting. Feel free to jump in if you do, but if not, that's what I can provide generally.
I think that's a good general summary, but it is important that students factor in that ROI, and you should be able to talk to the schools that you're considering specifically and request that data, because we are required to keep it. So we know the entry-level salaries of our Master of Accounting students, entry level for the MBA, and then depending on where they go for those post-degree outcomes, we also have those averages available for you. And that is a savvy question to ask a program as you're really considering your options to really weigh that ROI.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say with our students, I think, because obviously this is typically public information. If you go on any school website, they'll typically tell you the average starting salary. And so again, since the majority of our students are coming directly out of undergrad, they may see the same starting salary to that with their peers. But, and again, I think maybe Amy and Janelle can can confirm or deny this, but it's mainly because of work experience, you know. And so, yes, I may have this master's, but I also don't have a work experience. But what our students are reporting back is much quicker to career trajectories because they have that advanced degree. And so I always let our students know, yes, the starting salary, it may be the same of your bachelor's, but like Amanda said, you're going to have that return on investment. So where is that bachelor's degree candidate going to be 5 years from now? You're going to be in a completely different place, hopefully, you know, within that 5 years because of that advanced degree, because you sat for the CPA and just a number of different factors.
Thank you. This is a general question about accounting schools. If you have any insight on whether there are programs that are geared towards the sections of the CPA exam. I'm unfamiliar.
No, I always, how can I put this? I always tell my students that here at Kelly, we are not a CPA prep course. You know, we're a degree awarding, obviously, institution. And so to say that this class focuses on this section of CPA and this class focuses on this, it doesn't. We focus on the overall degree. You know, what are companies looking for? What's going to help you get advanced into your career? Now, it just so happens that what you were taking also happens to be on the CPA, you know, as well. And so we've actually also teamed up with Becker. So our students can go through the Becker FastPass. And so Becker will provide, you know, the self-study guided materials and the modules and things like that. But what we are finding, again, for example, if I have a student that's obviously taking, you know, 4 or 5 credit hours in data analytics, so they've done this all semester, and then they're looking at this self-study module from Becker of data analytics, that's then just an overview at that point. Okay, got that, because they've already taken all these classes in data analytics. And so I really tell students, you know, Becker is there just like it was for GMAT, you know, self-study guide materials, or the SAT study guide materials. It's the same thing for a CPA. You know, when you studied for the SAT, everything that you learned in high school, you know, may not be covered in every single class when you go to take the SAT or the LSAT or wherever test you may be taking, but it's really there for like as a refresher course. And so to say that we have specific classes for specific sections, no, no. And so it's just going to be built on, you know, your knowledge of what you learned. Hopefully, if you have an accounting undergraduate degree and obviously a master's in accounting for the graduate degree, it's just going to basically deepen your knowledge and hopefully, obviously, help you with the CPA. But at the end of the day, you know, CPA, it is about what you know. So also how fast can you do it? You know, and so I think that's something for students, you know, to consider as well. You got to know it, but you got to know it efficiently and well, because you got to do it fast. So that's my take on it.
Awesome. Here's a question that you can probably answer from the perspective of like a firm or a school. There's someone started working for a Big Four firm after college. Is there still benefit to getting a MAT after a few years of working straight out of undergrad?
I think that depends on what your plan is for what your career plan is. And if you would like to make a career move, that might be a good choice for you. If you intend to keep working for the same firm in the same function, that might not be necessary. So really just think about what your long-term plan is and where you see your career going. If you would like to move into an advisory practice, for example, that might be beneficial. But if you are, for example, if you're in audit, you're already working in audit, you've been there for a few years, getting a MAC won't change that direct path that you're on at that time. But just if you're looking to move to a different company or a different function, that's where it might come into play.
Any other thoughts?
That's what I advise my students. I have prospective students, not say that they've worked at KPMG, but sometimes they are working at KPMG and they're like, oh, I want to get my master's in accounting. And I ask them, how long have you been working there? What do you want to do? And then usually if they completely want to change careers, I just tell them to go to MBA. You know, that's just going to be more beneficial for them than getting a 1-year master's in accounting, because if they've been doing it for 5 or 7 years, you know, they basically kind of know everything there is to know, you know, at that point, just due to experience alone. So, you know, even though I do recruit for here, I'm also very realistic, and I don't want a student wasting their time or money if it's not going to be beneficial to them. So I'll send them over to William and Mary and get an MBA.
Thank you.
This has been great. If you have any additional questions, please pop them in. We have a few minutes left, but thank you, ladies. This has been great conversation. It seems like some of our major takeaways, if you're trying to lean in towards accounting, the master's in accounting, 1-year program directly from undergrad. You don't need experience. You can go and grow. You'll be able to sit for the CPA exam. You got the opportunity for great firms like KPMG. And then also think about that MBA. You can do it at the same time, depending on your goals, or it's a great opportunity to pivot and grow and expand what you're currently doing in your current skill set. With that being said, unless you ladies have like something extra to add, I think we did it. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for the time. And we encourage all of you candidates to reach out to the schools and the firms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do your research, reach out. These ladies, they were super awesome to work with and helpful for this event. And I know that they will provide you with the same type of information to help you along your path.
One thing, Fanae, because I saw that you had a lot of questions about CPA. I always tell students, go directly to the state board. All 50 states have vastly different requirements across the board. So typically we keep talking about 150 credit hours. That is in most states, but for us, I don't know if you guys are in Texas, but Texas is a headache when it comes to the CPA and what they need and things like that. So again, I encourage students, if they are considering CPA, to go to the CPA board in that state and see, what do I need if I plan on getting my license and working in this state? Because we're going to be a great resource. Amanda and myself, but we're not the CPA. We don't set the rules, we don't set the standards, and neither do the companies. So that's my biggest thing I want to definitely make clear to students.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you raised that.
Well, ladies, thanks so much. We wish you the best of luck. If you have questions, keep going. Keep going. Do your investigation. We appreciate your time today, and hopefully you got something of value from it. Best of luck if you're taking the GMAT exam. Take it early. We have additional webinars that can give you some insight. But good luck in whatever the future holds for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.